I walked into the dressing room and saw her in tears. Not because of me. She was on the phone with him. Her ex, it should have been you. So I let her finish the call, then told her dad the wedding was canceled. My name's Logan. I'm 31. I work in private acquisitions, which is just a fancy way of saying I know how to read people, predict risk, and plan accordingly. That skill has served me well, until I fell for someone I thought I could trust. Her name was Madison, 28. Art teacher by profession, chaotic dreamer by nature. The kind of woman who left half-finished teacups all over the apartment and took pictures of strangers' dogs like they were celebrities. She was impulsive in a way I found endearing at first, reckless in a way I later recognized as a warning sign. We met at a gallery opening. She stood in front of a canvas covered in black paint and called it a bold meditation on silence. I said it looked like someone gave up halfway through. She laughed and spilled a little wine on my shoes. That was Madison, effortlessly charming, just slippery enough to make you chase her. Our first year was good. Then certain things started to feel off. She was still in touch with her ex. She didn't lie about it, said they were just friends. But his name popped up in little ways. Once on her Spotify, once on a shared drive she accidentally left open, once when she whispered his name in her sleep. That was the first time I truly paused. But I didn't confront her. I didn't want to come off paranoid or insecure. Instead, I did something I never thought I'd have to do. I reached out to someone I hadn't spoken to since college. Tarek, a cybersecurity analyst who now worked freelance for finance clients. I told him I needed a favor. Not spyware, nothing illegal. I just wanted access to whatever was publicly syncing to Madison's cloud, her backups, location history, metadata on her device logs. He hesitated, but he owed me, and he knew how to be discreet. 3 days later, he sent me a zip file. I opened it in my office, behind a locked door. It was worse than I imagined. There were photos, nothing graphic, but intimate. Hotel room selfies, candles, wine, her ex's shoes on the floor. The timestamp was from the same weekend she told me she was visiting her mother in Sacramento. There were messages, months of them, hidden under a muted group chat. I miss the way you held me like you meant it. He's safe, but you're real. Sometimes I look at him and think it should have been you. It was all there. And instead of confronting her, I did something that took every ounce of self-control. Nothing. Not yet. I closed the file, took a breath, poured myself a drink, and thought. Madison didn't know I knew, which meant I had the upper hand. And unlike her, I believed in seeing things through. So I let the engagement continue. I helped her pick the dress. I met with her mother to finalize seating charts. I even stood beside her at brunch when she joked to her bridesmaids, "Logan's the kind of man you marry, not the one you remember." That line stayed with me, not because it hurt, but because it was true. I was the man she wanted to settle for. The one with a stable job, good credit, and no drama. But underneath her smile, she was mourning someone else. Someone she wasn't over. But weddings are expensive. Deposits non-refundable. Guests already invited. So I decided, if she wanted a wedding, she would have it. Just not the ending she expected. I started preparing. Quietly. I contacted the venue AV team. Asked if I could run a tribute video as part of my vows. They were more than happy to help. I also called our bank and set up a new individual account. Moved most of my funds. Froze the joint one a day before the wedding. I transferred the lease of our apartment into my name alone, backed by the documentation Tarek helped me gather. I gave the building manager a copy, just in case. Every box was checked. Every rope tightened. By the morning of the ceremony, I wasn't nervous. I was ready. I stood in front of the mirror in my fitted charcoal suit, adjusting my cufflinks while my best man cracked jokes in the background. My groomsmen were in high spirits. The photographers were already there, snapping behind-the-scenes shots for the wedding album. I even played along, smiling at the camera, straightening my boutonniere. No one suspected a thing. As I stood near the altar later that day, hands folded in front of me, I caught Madison's father's eye. He gave me a proud nod. He liked me. Had told me once I was the kind of man who keeps his word. I had. Madison was in the dressing room, hidden behind white curtains and glass. Her bridesmaids fluttered around, giggling, fixing her makeup. The final touches. And soon, she'd make her entrance. But before that, there was something I needed to hear. Because sometimes, when you're preparing the fall, you want to know the exact moment they step off the ledge. And hers was coming. I made sure to slip away from the ceremony area 15 minutes before guests were seated. Nobody noticed. I walked out with the calm of a man going to fix a tie or grab a mint. That's the benefit of being the groom. People assume everything you do is important. I already knew which hallway led to the bridal dressing room. I'd walked past it during rehearsals. It was tucked away behind the floral prep station, just past the spiral staircase that led down to the kitchen. Sound carried easily back there. The walls were thin, and sometimes, Truth leaks through thin walls when people think no one's listening. The door wasn't fully shut. It was cracked open, maybe a few inches. And inside, I could see her. Madison sat on the velvet bench near the full-length mirror, veil off, head bowed, her hands pressed to her phone like it was holding her together. Her dress pooled around her like a curtain. She was crying. At first, I froze. Not because I didn't expect this, but because of how fragile she looked. I'd imagined this moment a dozen times. I'd seen her smug, cold, defiant, but I didn't expect her to be broken before I said a word. But then I heard her voice. Soft, trembling. I don't know if I can do this. She was on the phone. No, he doesn't know. I've been careful. But I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't be in this dress. She paused, sniffled, wiped under her eye. I stayed completely still, breathing shallow, my spine pressing flat against the wall outside the door. It should have been you. That's what she said. Clear. Like it was a line she'd rehearsed in her head 1,000 times, and only now had the nerve to say out loud. It should have been you, she repeated. Not him. A pause on the line. I imagined him on the other end. Some arrogant, weak-chinned ghost of a man who knew how to string her along just enough to make her question everything. The kind of guy who had nothing to offer but chaos, and still made her burn for it. And her next line sealed it. If I walk away now, everyone will hate me. His family. My dad. But if I go through with it, I'll hate myself. I didn't flinch. I just listened. This wasn't a moment for confrontation. This was a moment for certainty. For knowing, beyond all doubt, that what I was about to do was earned. Madison didn't cry over guilt. She didn't cry because she hurt me. She cried because she was trapped in a decision she chose, and now it wasn't romantic anymore. It was real. Permanent. I waited. She ended the call with a quiet, I love you. Not to me. She took a deep breath, smoothed her dress, wiped her eyes, then stood and walked to the mirror, adjusting her necklace. She whispered to herself, just get through it. Then figure the rest out later. That was it. Her plan. Say the vows. Get the photos. Smile for the guests. And then, when no one was watching, throw it all away. I stepped back as she approached the door. I made sure to be standing just far enough to look like I had just arrived. Her eyes widened when she saw me. A flash of panic. She tucked her phone into her clutch so fast it almost fell. Hey, she said, voice shaking slightly. I thought you were. In the hall. Just needed air, I said. I kept my tone neutral. Calm. You okay? She blinked too hard. Yeah, just emotional. Big debt. I nodded. I get it. Lot to process. She smiled, tight, performative. You look really good. So do you. We stood there in silence for a beat too long. I'll see you out there, I said. And I walked past her, steady and quiet. Behind me, I heard the faintest whisper. Logan. But I didn't turn around. There was nothing left to say. I returned to the main room just as the guests began to arrive. The air smelled like roses and champagne. The string quartet was playing some soft instrumental that I immediately forgot. My best man, Cole, came up and clapped me on the shoulder. You ready? He asked. I smiled. Yeah, let's do this. He had no idea. The AV tech was already set up at the back of the room, projector mounted, everything synced to the remote drive I gave him earlier in the week. I had labeled the file simply, Logan's Vows.mp4. He asked no questions. I watched as the seats filled. My family on one side, hers on the other. People laughing, snapping photos, sipping sparkling water, and waiting for a show. And they were about to get one. The music shifted. The doors opened. And there she was. Madison walked in on her father's arm. She had pulled herself together, smile pristine, eyes dry, makeup flawless. No one would have guessed she'd been sobbing 10 minutes ago. She was glowing. Like a bride should be. But I saw it now. The performance. The polish. The mask. And I was about to rip it off in front of every single person who still believed it was real. The string quartet faded out as Madison stepped beside me at the altar, her hand lightly brushing mine. Her grip was cold. Not from nerves, but from distance. I didn't take her hand. She blinked up at me with a practiced softness in her eyes. I matched it. A perfect illusion, just for a few more minutes. The officiant cleared his throat. Dearly beloved. I barely heard him. Instead, I watched the screen. The one the AV guy had quietly lowered at the back of the room, masked behind white draping until the precise moment I'd planned. He gave me a subtle nod from his booth. Showtime. The officiant smiled at us both. Before we begin the exchange of vows, Logan would like to say a few words. Madison turned to me, surprised. This wasn't part of rehearsal. I stepped forward and took the microphone from the stand. Thank you, I said, and my voice echoed through the hall. I know everyone's excited to see two people in love begin the next chapter of their lives together. And today was supposed to be just that. Madison gave a tight, confused smile. She leaned toward me, whispering, "What are you doing?" I ignored her. I wanted to say something personal, I said into the mic, but instead of talking about love, I want to talk about truth. Because without truth, love is just a transaction. The AV guy clicked the remote. The screen lit up behind us, and the first message appeared. I miss the way you used to touch me. He doesn't even look at me like you did. Madison. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Madison spun around. Logan, what the hell is this? I didn't look at her. I looked at her parents. Her father's face turned white. Her mother reached up and clutched the edge of her chair. The next screenshot loaded. I know this isn't right, but I dream about you. I imagine it's you beside me at night. He's boring. Safe. Not like you. I want you to ruin me like you used to. Then the photo. The hotel room. Madison lying on the bed in red silk. The timestamp visible. 2 months ago. The weekend she told me she was visiting her sister in Denver. Another wave of whispers spread through the hall. The officiant lowered his binder. The bridesmaids looked at each other, frozen. Madison's voice broke. Logan, please. Stop. I turned to her finally. Quietly, I said, why? This is what you wanted, right? A real, unforgettable wedding. She tried to grab the mic from me. I stepped away. The next image popped up. A Google Maps screenshot. A shared location. The hotel. Her phone pinged there for 11 hours. Then came the kicker, a video clip. A short voice message she left him, tearful and whispering. If I could go back, I never would have said yes to Logan. It should have been you. Her father stood up from the front row. Madison, what is this? Madison dropped the bouquet. Her hands shook. She turned to me, eyes wide. You had someone spy on me, she shouted. I gave her a slight smile. No, I said. You gave everything away yourself. I just packaged it nicely. She stared at me, eyes flooded. You ruined me. You beat me to it, I said. Then I handed the mic back to the officiant. There won't be a wedding today, I said calmly. Thank you all for coming. Enjoy the wine. It's already paid for. I walked off the stage. Behind me, Madison collapsed into a chair, screaming after me, but I didn't turn back. I passed the AV tech on my way out. Slipped him a folded $100. He nodded without a word. He'd seen worse, probably, but he hadn't seen it this clean. By the time I reached the parking lot, my phone had started blowing up. Not from guests, not from Madison, but from her ex. He'd seen the presentation. Tarek had looped him in. Earlier that week, I'd sent her ex a dummy invite. Madison had kept him blocked on social media, but not his cousin, who worked at a catering company I'd hired for the event. He was there, in the back row, watching the whole thing. And now, he was trying to call me. I didn't answer. He was never my target. He was just the match. She poured the gas. I lit the fire. Back in the hotel, the guests had started to leave. A few stayed behind, trying to console Madison. Some sat there, stunned. Others were filming. That was fine. That was the point. This wasn't revenge out of rage. This was consequence, orchestrated, timed, surgical. No screaming. No slaps. Just truth on a screen and silence loud enough to echo. I got into the car, closed the door, and exhaled. The ring sat in my glove compartment, still in its velvet box. I had no plans for it now, but I wasn't returning it. Let her wonder where it went. I didn't drive straight home after the wedding. Instead, I parked across the street from the hotel and just sat there. The engine off. Windows cracked. No music. Just the ambient noise of the aftermath. Car doors slamming, heels clicking on pavement, the occasional distant sob echoing off concrete. Let her cry. Let her scream. Let her explain this one to her parents. This wasn't something she could smooth over with a carefully worded apology. Not this time. I pulled out my phone and opened a folder I'd created 2 weeks earlier. Exit plan, final steps. I didn't name it that out of drama. I named it that because everything I'd done had been designed with one outcome in mind. Leave no mess, no leftovers, and no way back. First, I opened my banking app. 2 days ago, I transferred every dollar from our joint savings into my personal account. The account Madison thought we'd use for the honeymoon, for our new life. I left exactly $4.18 in it. I tapped freeze card. Done. Next, I sent an email to the landlord of our shared apartment downtown. Attached was a signed letter, notarized, removing Madison's name from the lease. Also attached, timestamps of her affair, hotel receipts, and messages. All sufficient grounds for a no-cause eviction clause in our rental agreement. That clause had been added months ago, after a quiet call with the property manager. He didn't care about the details. He just wanted everything to be legal. Madison's access code? Disabled. Mailbox privileges? Revoked. Her nameplate on the door? Already removed. She'd find out soon enough. Final step, the courier. Earlier in the week, I scheduled a private courier to arrive at 6:45 p.m., just late enough that Madison would have likely made it back to the apartment after the implosion, probably hoping to salvage whatever life she thought was still there. The courier would be waiting in the lobby with a black storage box. Inside, all of her personal items from the apartment. A sealed envelope with the cancellation invoice for the honeymoon. The apartment key, bent in half. And one last note, printed cleanly on ivory paper. I opened the note one last time before sending it. It should have been you. That's what you said. So I gave you what you wanted. Go build your future with your should've. But you won't be doing it here. Logan. I hit send on the notification text to the courier and set my phone face down. There was nothing left to say. That night, I booked a suite in another hotel, nicer than the wedding venue. One of those places with room service that calls you sir twice in the same sentence. I ordered steak, a bourbon, and watched a silent movie I didn't finish. I didn't cry, not because I was made of stone, but because every emotion had already been spent during the planning. Rage, burned through it. Sadness, processed it. All that was left was clarity. Cold, necessary clarity. The next morning, I woke to 32 messages. From Madison, from her mother, even one from her ex. He had the nerve to send. You didn't have to humiliate her like that. Didn't I? She told me I was her future, while she told him she wished I wasn't in it. I blocked them all. A few days later, I received one final envelope at my office. No return address, just a soft cream-colored envelope with my name written in shaky cursive. Inside, a letter from Madison. No apology, no accountability. Just 4 paragraphs of poetic nonsense about how she lost herself, how she felt cornered by expectations, and how maybe this will make you stronger in the end. At the bottom, written in pen, I never stopped loving you. But I guess I didn't know what love really meant. I didn't respond. Instead, I took the note, folded it once, and slipped it inside the same velvet box that held the wedding ring. Then I opened my desk drawer and dropped the whole thing inside, beneath a stack of quarterly reports. That's where it stays. Not as a keepsake, not as a wound, but as evidence. Evidence that I didn't destroy her. She destroyed herself. All I did was hold up a mirror and let everyone see what she really looked like. And that's the story. If you're still here, that means you're one of us. So go ahead, hit that subscribe button. I drop new chaos every single day, and trust me, tomorrow's story, it's even worse than this one.